лука, ни чеснока нету. Ничего свежего, не попустишь. Укровочек. Нет. А? Нет, я тут не буду. Все нормально. Много возьмут спокойно с этим будет. Я есть вообще что-то не хочу, не надо. Не понял, где Яндекс? Не понял, нет, что это такое тут? Пяти поменяет. Женщина, успокойте кто-нибудь женщину, пусть она нормально не сидит. Как я не знаю. Ну, так а что ты? Нет, сейчас я разбегу. Сейчас это больно, да. Что? Что такое есть, что ли? В том-то штука, что ли? Я не знаю. Да.
Добрый день, это «Вести Удмуртии», в студии Елена Лебедева, и вначале коротко о главном. Стоимость проезда в общественном транспорте Ижевска вырастет, когда и насколько, уже знают в региональном Минтранспорта. Полетов станет больше, а ремонт полосы проведут без отмены рейсов. Глава Росавиации рассказал, что ждет Ижевский аэропорт. И снова кэшбэк за отпуск дома. В России заработала новая программа поддержки внутреннего туризма. В чем ее отличие от предыдущей? В столице Удмуртии проезд в общественном транспорте может подорожать. С 1 ноября стоимость планируют повысить до 25 рублей за одну поездку. Об этом сегодня заявили в региональном Минтрансе. С предложением о необходимости повышения цены предприятия не раз обращались к властям региона, но решение откладывали. Последний раз стоимость меняли 5 лет назад, тогда она увеличилась с 17 до 20 рублей. Так что новая цифра, озвученная сегодня, экономически оправдана, заявил глава ведомства. Основная причина повышения стоимости – затраты на топливо и энергию, заявили рублей за одну поездку. Дорожать с 1 ноября стоимость планируют повысить до 25 рублей.
Энергоресурсы поднялись от 52 до 30%. 5 лет мы старались и ждали, держали эту ситуацию в руках, но нет сегодня возможности уже удерживать. Завтра может получиться так, что просто люди захотели бы и в 2 раза больше заплатить, но некому будет, потому что транспорт умрет.
Алексей Горбачев добавил, что при безналичной оплате стоимость проезда будет меньше и составит 23 рубля. Транспортники, в свою очередь, обещают в случае повышения тарифа провести модернизацию парка и поднять зарплату кондукторам и водителям. Впрочем, окончательное решение примут на заседании комиссии по тарифному регулированию при Минстрое Удмуртии 20 октября. А вот стоимость авиабилетов из Ижевска теоретически должна стать меньше. В Удмуртию готовы прийти еще 2 перевозчика. Об этом накануне заявил глава Росавиации России. Александр Нерадько работал в Удмуртии и провел совещание, где обсуждалось будущее отрасли. Каких изменений ждать республике, узнала Татьяна Домрачева.
Лучшее РПГ теперь на ПК. Загружай приложение Plarium Play и приготовься к битве. Исследуй.
Вот так авиаворота республики представляют себе жители Ижевска, по крайней мере, из 6 вариантов реконструкции городского аэровокзала. Этот выбрали большинство участвовавших в голосовании. Теперь проект предстоит воплотить в жизнь. В какие сроки и на чьи деньги, говорили в региональном правительстве.
Предпроектные работы завершены, и в 2021-2022 годах начнется уже, собственно, реконструкция. Мы предполагаем кординальным образом изменить систему маршрутизации пассажиров. Мы будем максимально использовать все площади, которые у нас будут напрямую связаны с реконструированной взлетно-посадочной полосой и рулежной дорожкой.
Эту часть работы республика должна выполнить своими силами, а вот реконструкция аэродрома попала в федеральную программу модернизации. Ее цель – развитие авиаперевозок между городами страны без пересадки в Москве, как это происходит зачастую сейчас. И Ижевск получит более 3 миллиардов из федерального бюджета на новую взлетно-посадочную полосу, перроны, очистные сооружения, средства обеспечения безопасности.
И появится вместо одной 2 рулежные дорожки. И что очень важно, что реконструкция взлетно-посадочной полосы будет вестись без приостановления взлетов и посадок. Это очень важно, чтобы не осуществить воздушную блокаду, так в кавычках, Ижевска.
Сейчас идет работа над проектом, которая должна завершиться в следующем году. На строительство потратят еще 3 года. После этого можно будет заняться расширением маршрутной сети. В Удмуртию готовы прийти еще 2 крупных перевозчика на условиях господдержки. На нее Росавиация дает 60 миллионов. Регион тоже должен сделать свой вклад. И тогда воздушное сообщение свяжет Ижевск с Новосибирском, Екатеринбургом, Минеральными водами. Татьяна Домрачева, Роман Скутин, Вести, Удмуртия.
Свою рабочую поездку Александр Нерадько продолжил уже в Сарапуле. Там, как сообщает пресс-служба главы и правительства республики, глава Росавиации посетил предприятие, выпускающее оборудование для авиационной промышленности, и обсудил перспективы сотрудничества заводов с Федеральным агентством воздушного транспорта. Отметим, что сегодня в Сарапуле налажен выпуск электроники для авиации, бортовых систем генерирования, а также светотехники для всех типов российских самолетов и вертолетов. Как отметил Александр Нерадько, Федеральное агентство готово обсуждать с Удмуртией, в том числе и вопросы импортозамещения. И все же главной целью визита руководителя Росавиации в Удмуртию было участие в мероприятиях, посвященных памяти Надежды Курченко, бортпроводницы самолета Ан-24. Она погибла, защищая пассажиров и экипаж 15 октября 1970 года. Теперь в Ижевске есть школа имени Надежды Курченко. Репортаж Дмитрия Рублева.
В этой ижевской школе действует единственный в Удмуртии класс юных бортпроводниц. В нем занимается 15 школьниц. Историю отечественной авиации и навыки престижной профессии они будут изучать в течение года. Само обучение проходит на базе школы юных летчиков.
Я считаю, что стюардесса – это очень интересная профессия. Они восхищают своей грацией, красотой и смелостью. Нам рассказывают про этикет, про манеры, нам рассказывают про основные знания в профессии.
Впрочем, эти девчонки знают, риск тоже есть. Сегодня учениц пригласили на урок мужества под названием «В жизни тоже есть место подвигу». В школе присвоили имя отважной стюардессы Надежды Курченко. 50 лет назад она ценой своей жизни преградила путь террористам.
Thanks for checking out guitartricks.com recently. We're running a special right now that's really cool. This is the best time to join Guitar Tricks. For a short time, when you sign up, you'll get an awesome...
Они побывали в музее, в Народном музее имени Надежды Курченко. И их очень сильно потрясла история этой юной 19-летней бортпроводницы. Когда они пришли в школу, то они обратились.
Надежды Курченко почтили минуты молчания и возложили цветы.
Надежде было 19 лет. Преподаватель в школе
Курченко.
Против коронавируса в России может начаться уже через месяц. Об этом в эфире телеканала «Россия-1» заявил министр здравоохранения Михаил Мурашко. По его словам, сегодня формируются списки тех категорий населения, которые должны быть защищены в первую очередь. А пока производителям необходимо время, чтобы перейти на выпуск препарата в большем объеме. Скорее всего, это удастся сделать в ноябре. Планируемые показатели до 6 миллионов доз вакцины в месяц. Это позволит сделать прививки 70% россиян в течение года. В этом случае распространение коронавируса в России остановится к ноябрю 2021 года, заявили в центре имени Гамалеи. Что же касается ситуации в Удмуртии, то за последние сутки число заболевших выросло еще на 115 человек. 3 женщины скончались, выросло и число тяжелых пациентов, их сейчас 108. Под особым медицинским контролем сегодня и призывники. Первые команды из Удмуртии уже начали отправлять на службу. Накануне новобранцы уехали в Пермь. Всего этой осенью солдат может получить отсрочку, узнал.
Эту процедуру офтальмолог проведет 9 тысяч раз. Именно столько посетил, считает, что год в армии пойдет только на пользу.
Такие войска государственной службы.
Исследования прошли 78 призывников. Каждый к армии годен, констатирует врач. В здоровья многих. В Удмуртии лидируют болезни сердечно-сосудистой системы, гипертония и пороки сердца. На втором месте психические расстройства. На третьем – заболевания опорно-двигательного аппарата. Годность среди новобранцев республики составила 65%.
Он призванных им показать.
1400 новобранцев, практически вся Россия.
Получаете куртку демисезонную, померяем ее. Теплое белье, теплые кальсоны, еще если будет холодно, будете одевать, и теплая футболка.
А эти молодые люди уже сидят на чем.
Ну да, это как бы не факт, что ты кушаешь мясом еще будешь, подготовка.
В чемоданах первые 24 новобранца сегодня отправятся в Пермь. Вагон в поезде заказан и обработан дезраствором. Родных и друзей сопровождающие офицеры просят не приходить на перрон.
Контактов исключаем в связи с эпидемиологической ситуацией в нашей стране, поэтому контактов никаких не будет, я не допущу этого. Старшие команд сопровождения работников военкомата все будут следить за тем, чтобы команд не было.
По месту прибытия новобранцев ждет еще одно тестирование на ковид и 14-дневный карантин. Анжелика Ташмухамедова, Артем Пушин. Вести. Удмуртия.
Разместите вакансию на ХХРУ всего за 199 рублей. Ведь здесь можно найти любого...
Правительство утвердило выходным днем в России 31 декабря 2021 года, которое выпадает на пятницу. Постановление опубликовано на сайте Кабмина. В новом году 2 и 3 января выпадают на субботу и воскресенье, так как это нерабочие праздничные дни. Их решено перенести на пятницу 5 ноября и пятницу 31 декабря соответственно, говорится в публикации. Всего же в 2021 году у жителей страны будет 7 выходных периодов. Зимой отдых объявлен с 1 по 10 января и с 21 по 23 февраля. Весной 3 праздничных дня в марте и 6 в мае. Еще 3 выходных назначены на середину июня и 4 на начало ноября. Еще раз уточню, что речь идет о 31 декабря 2021 года, а не 2020. Это «Вести Удмуртии», мы продолжаем. Строителям из Сарапула сегодня не до отдыха. Здесь начался завершающий этап реконструкции парка имени Ленина, который теперь может претендовать на звание самого благоустроенного общественного пространства города. На что потратили 40 миллионов федеральных рублей, увидела Анастасия Стерхова.
Ольге Сомовой тропинки и полянки в Ленинском парке давно уже заменяют спортивный зал. В свои 69 она каждое утро приходит сюда, 3 километра скандинавской ходьбы, полчаса зарядки, и своим хобби пенсионерка заряжает других. С этого года она тренируется не одна. Ежедневно к ней на разминку приезжают пенсионеры со всего города.
В парке мы просто отдыхаем, общаемся. У нас здесь красота. Есть липовая аллея, есть березовая аллея. А белочки-то прыгают с дерева на дерево. Мы наблюдаем, радуемся, любуемся мы ими. И общение, вот самое главное на зарядке, общение друг с другом.
Старики.
Очень много детских площадок.
Разнообразные детские зоны разместились на 5 гектарах.
По России снова вернут деньги за отдых. Накануне в регионах начался 2-й этап программы продажи туров.
Всем привет! Добро пожаловать на канал Geekbrains. Сегодня мы поговорим не о конкретной профессии, а раскроем такую интересную тему, как искусственный интеллект. Этот термин словно витает в воздухе, но что же это такое?
С кэшбэком. Проект распространяется на все новогодние праздники до 10 января, и попасть в программу можно даже с 2-дневным отдыхом. При этом неважно, какое именно направление выбрать, это может центрофортный
сектор,
трасс, 1 курорт активного отдыха и 1 санаторий. Все предложения уже есть на сайте Федерального агентства Ростуризма мирпутешествий.рф. По условиям программы оплатить путевку нужно онлайн и только картой платежной системы МИР. Кэшбэк должен вернуться в течение 5 дней, но купить тур нужно до 5 декабря. А вот жительнице Якшурбодинского района было совсем не до отдыха. Этим летом Татьяна Колхир угощала отдыхающих на Черноморском побережье перепечами. Поехала на море она вместе со своей семьей, но от солнечных ванн отказалась. Вместо этого встала у плиты и готовила знаменитое блюдо удмуртской кухни. Затем выходила на пляж, надев не купальник, а национальный костюм. В нем, признается, было жарко, но сегодня, благодаря ее кулинарной акции, туристы точно знают, где находится Удмуртия и чем она богата.
Оказалось, что многие не знают, что такое перепечь и где вообще находится Удмуртия. Но меня все заметили и начали интересоваться, а что я такое раздаю? Потому что запах выпечки был по всему пляжу. Сказали, что было очень вкусно, и многие захотели приехать к нам.
Горячие перепечи даже в плюс 30 составили конкуренцию даже мороженому, а местные повара попросили поделиться секретами приготовления удмуртской выпечки, что мастерица и сделала. В Удмуртии открылась студенческая универсиада. Проходить она будет до следующего июня, а после республика сможет принять у себя и другие крупные соревнования. Теперь все вузы республики состоят во Всероссийском студенческом спортивном союзе. Что это значит для региона, узнала Евгения Пушкарева.
EVE Online is a vast universe, alive with the unrelenting activity and combined history of its players. Pursuing lives of adventure, warfare, and prosperity, they share this existence in the biggest single shard, free-to-play MMO of all time. Set 21,000 years in the future, EVE takes place in a distant cluster of over 7,000 star systems known as New Eden. It is a rich and diverse universe featuring densely populated havens of relative safety, governed by 4 great empires. Hostile systems where player alliances make the rules. Even regions of anomalous and unexplored space that hold their own secrets. You play as a capsuleer, a revered breed of highly trained pilot.
And good evening once again, day 1365 of this Trump administration, 19 days to go now until Election Day. Tonight wasn't exactly a split screen night. More than that, you really needed 2 televisions as the 2 candidates did the opposite of the debate that was supposed to be on tonight. They talked at the same time on opposing networks. Again tonight, the contrast was stark. Trump and Biden took questions from voters just hours after the U.S. passed 8 million coronavirus cases, a number just shy of the population of New York City. Over 218,000 souls now gone. What's gotten a bit lost is we're now in the 3rd spike of infections. 37 states plus Guam, Washington, D.C. seeing double-digit increases in cases. It's become the defining issue of this election. Mass death has a way of focusing the mind and the voters, and it was a big focus at tonight's dueling town halls.
When people watch your video, you can make them go, okay, maybe that's a bit much, but you know how important it is to make them pay attention. And that's where eye-catching touches like this have a massive impact. Videos was created to allow anyone with any budget or any technical ability to add world-class animations and titles into every single video in just a few clicks. From global brands to small businesses, giant influencers to small niche specialists, and anyone else who makes videos. Whatever content you make, whatever industry you're in, we have the killer touches to grab their attention and make them remember your message. With a video's lifetime license, you pay just once and you can create as much as you want. You can even sell these animations to clients. Some of our users have created whole businesses just by selling videos animations because people don't realize how unbelievably quick, easy, and cheap they are to create. And it's even cheaper if you buy from this ad. So click here, grab your discounted license today and a bunch of free bonuses. Click the link and grab your audience's attention.
Мы
Mr. President, if you knew COVID-19, as you told Bob Woodward in February.
As what?
As you told Bob Woodward in February was airborne and deadlier than the flu, why did you only put in place a travel ban from China and not put in place other measures?
I put on a travel ban far earlier than Dr. Fauci thought it was necessary, who I like, far earlier than the scientists. I was actually the only one that wanted to put it on. Dr. Fauci said I saved thousands and thousands of lives.
Did you?
I was early. I was extremely early when I put on the travel ban.
Has your opinion changed on the importance of mask wearing?
No, because I was okay with the masks, but as far as the mask is concerned, I'm good with masks. I'm okay with masks. I tell people wear masks.
Our deaths per capita is among the highest among
mortality, or the excess mortality. And what we've done has been amazing, and we have done an amazing job. And it's rounding the corner.
Biden's response was predictably very different.
We should be talking about, depending on the continuation of the spread of the virus, we should be thinking about making a mask. It's estimated by every major study done, from the University of Washington to Columbia, that if in fact we wore masks, we could save between now and the end of the year 100,000 lives. The words of a president matter.
Absolutely.
No matter whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, they matter. And when a president doesn't wear a mask or makes fun of folks like me when I was wearing a mask for a long time, then, people say, well, it mustn't be that important.
Trump was also asked about his last negative coronavirus test, and his answers raised further questions tonight.
Your first positive test was Thursday, October 1st, okay? When was your last negative test? When did you last remember having a negative test?
Well, I test quite a bit, and I can tell you that before the debate, which I thought it was a very good debate, and I felt fantastically.
Did you test the day of the debate?
I don't know. I don't even remember.
You say you don't know if you got a test on the day of the debate?
I had no problem. Again, the doctors do it. I don't ask them.
The debate that was supposed to take place tonight was canceled when Trump, fresh off the coronavirus after all, refused to appear in a virtual format. The final debate, if it happens, still scheduled for a week from tonight. Aaron, you get to go first with this question, perhaps unanswerable. Do you think any minds, any votes were changed at the end of tonight for those lucky few Americans who have two flat screens hanging on the wall in their den?
Well, Brian, that is an open question, and I certainly have whiplash from trying to keep up with tonight's dueling town halls. Look, this was supposed to be a town hall with both men on the stage, and that is disappointing that didn't happen because the voters being able to engage with these candidates is really a different dynamic, and we saw their two very contrasting styles and messages on full display tonight. And so it's really just too bad that voters didn't get to see that with them sharing a stage. There are maybe a sliver of undecided voters at this point. I think really the only undecided issue is whether people are going to vote or not, but I don't think it's who they're going to vote for. So I think people kind of hunkered down in their camps tonight and either tuned in to Joe Biden if they were already voting for him, or to Donald Trump if they were already voting for him.
Eugene, I want to play a brief sampling of some more of Joe Biden over at the ABC News town hall. We'll discuss on the other side.
We shouldn't be defunding cops. We should be mandating the things that we should be doing within police departments and make sure there's total transparency.
And you are open to expanding the court?
I'm open to considering what happens from that point on.
So you'll come out with a clear position before Election Day?
Yes, depending on how they handle this.
If you lose, what will that say to you about where America is today?
Well, it could say that I'm a lousy candidate and I didn't do a good job. I hope that it doesn't say that we are as racially, ethnically, and religiously at odds with one another as it appears the president wants us to be.
Well, Eugene, folks can't say they don't have a clear choice or a stark difference in styles between these two guys. Let's look at where the race is Our friends over at NPR have put together what's called in the business the kind of poll of polls. And when you cram all the math together, the race looks right now, subject to change, 54-42. Eugene, I think consensus was the president did better tonight, though he was angrier tonight. He was also up against a professional litigator turned television host in our mutual friend Savannah Guthrie, who was all lawyer tonight as she tried to drill down, correct, and get in. So the same question to you as I asked Aaron. Do you think as much as a single vote was changed among people watching?
I don't think there are a whole lot of votes out there that can be changed at this point, Brian, but to the extent that there were, the difficulty tonight obviously was it was very difficult to watch both at the same time. I actually did it on a flat screen and on a laptop, and I have a headache. It was difficult to do. But even in that sort of schizophrenic way of experiencing these two town halls, you saw the huge gulf in tone, and you saw just the difference in these two men. I thought, two incredibly meaningful moments were, one was when a voter asked Biden, what would he do to make the country better if he lost? And if he didn't win, and he went on to give a long and kind of, I thought, pretty thoughtful answer about how he would go back to teaching law at UPenn, and he would try to instill the values of the nation as he understands them in his students, and so on. And at the end of the NBC town hall, Savannah lobbed kind of a rare softball at Donald Trump and said, President Trump, what do you say to voters who might not have supported you, but that you essentially do better next time if you're given 4 more years? And Trump's response was, I think I've done a great job. And that kind of tells you a lot about the two men and how they differ. And I think, it was stark contrast.
So, Mr. Rucker, about your newspaper, let's put the headline back up on the screen. It's not every day where you see a headline like former New York City mayor, president's personal lawyer, and longtime friend, White House was warned that Rudy was the target of Russian intelligence operation to feed misinformation to Trump. A, successful, misinformation fed. B, Rudy was rewarded with continuing to hang in the president's circle, rewarded with a speaking role at the virtual GOP convention. He was back on Fox News in prime time like nothing at all happened. Is this just, Phil, Thursday following the death of outrage in 2020?
It is just Thursday, and you left out one detail about Rudy Giuliani's year 2020. He's in the room helping prepare President Trump for his debates. He's the debate coach. And look, my colleagues at the Post reported tonight a pretty explosive story, which is that U.S. intelligence agencies believed that Rudy Giuliani was being worked over by Russian intelligence assets as a conduit to feed misinformation to the President of the United States. They were smart enough to know that Giuliani had a direct personal channel to the President. Durable time the last few years in Ukraine and with Ukrainian contacts to try to dig up dirt and information about Hunter Biden, Vice President Biden's son. And, apparently, according to U.S. intelligence, the Russians were onto him and were using Giuliani's interest in Ukraine to feed him misinformation to get to the president and to try to influence the American political process. And that's a big deal. We should not underscore, or we should underscore rather, how significant that development is. I know we've heard a lot about Russia the last 4 years, but this is highly unusual.
Can I ask you, did your national security advisor on January 28th in the Oval Office warn you that this would be the greatest national security risk of your administration? He didn't say it, or you don't remember?
I read it someplace, maybe Woodward said it or something, but no, he did not say that. But I knew it was a big threat.
Watching tonight, like everybody else, I thought to myself, I know that Woodward guy. In fact, we're having him on tonight. And indeed, Bob Woodward is here with us tonight, and he has brought along what we are able to play for you. This is the first time this particular clip has aired, and it gives us a glimpse into Trump's re-election strategy.
I have a very flexible strategy, Bob. I've had it for a long time. My whole life has been flexible strategy, and I've done very well. And I had it in the last campaign, too. I was very flexible. I changed campaign managers 3 times.
I know. Is it offense now, or is it government?
No, I view it as starting now. Look.
You understand why I'm asking?
I won the last campaign in the last 4 weeks, but I would really say I won it in the last week. I did rallies.
With us tonight, the celebrated author and journalist Bob Woodward, officially associate editor over at the Washington Post. He has followed up on his initial book on this White House called Fear with the new work appropriately titled Rage. Bob, it is great to have you, and you and I both know a slew of D.C. and New York-based journalists who wouldn't know America if they stumbled on it and never saw enough Trump yard signs in 2016 to realize what was happening. And some of the reporters on the road were calling newsrooms like ours saying something's happening out here. And we saw what happened in 2016. 2020 couldn't be more different. He has apparently told his handlers, get me on the road every day. We can win this. Do you think he recognizes the difference?
Yes, but there's some similarity, and the reason I think what he said there about his strategy, and I was pressing him on the question, what are you doing? What's your theory of the case of running for re-election? And he said very plainly he won the election in 2016. He won it in 4 weeks, the last 4 weeks. Actually, he said, won it in a week. And if you look at what happened in the last week of the 2016 campaign, he did 24, and the rallies, I'm not sure what the substance is to the voters, but I've never been to any of his rallies, but I've watched many of them. And there is a self-confidence, there is an energy, there is a sense of movement, and he, of course, declares, I'm with you, the average person. And so he's falling back in 2020 on that playbook, and you see he's going to be out giving endless rallies. There is a rally mania. Now, you're right, 2020 is very different. The question is, and you raise a very important issue, what did we see, what did we know in 2016? What do we see now, and what do we know?
Thanks for checking out GuitarTricks.com recently. We're running a special right now that's really cool. This is the best time to join Guitar.
And he still is doing that. He sounds good. He will not, as we know, tell the truth many times, and almost in a very serial, intuitive way. If it looks like he's in a pinch, he'll say something that is untrue. But him going back to that playbook. And when you compare it with the Biden campaign, which looks very kind of comparatively slow. There is Biden in his mask, rightly. Trump should be in his mask also, but Trump is going to exploit that. And whether it works or not, I'm agnostic. I don't know. I think it's unlikely Trump will win, but it's quite possible he will. And that strategy, it makes an emotional appeal to not just his base, but I suspect to lots of people. What do you think?
Oh, I'm like you. I'm not entitled to an opinion.
Tonight, the Battleground Blitz as we enter the final stretch of the 2020 race. Donald Trump and Joe Biden back in the campaign trail hours after dueling town halls. The coronavirus taking center stage. The president claiming the country is rounding the corner, even as it tops 8 million cases. His refusal to denounce baseless conspiracy theories, and Biden at a separate event deflecting questions about packing the Supreme Court. The election now just 18 days away. The growing coronavirus surge across the U.S. Over 1 million new cases in just 3 weeks. At least 38 states seeing a rise. Record hospitalizations in several of them. And the survivor who just left the hospital after nearly 200 days. Chris Christie, after his 7-day ICU stay, urging President Trump to do more to encourage masks, even as the president spreads more misinformation. The horrific attack, a teacher brutally attacked near a school. Authorities investigating it as an act of terror. What we know about the suspect. The tragic death of an MLB star, the former team employee, indicted today. The charges he now faces. The new forecast just out for winter. Will it be warm or a wallop? And the end of an era in the soda aisle.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening. Americans didn't get the face-to-face presidential debate they may have been looking for, but last night's dueling town halls offered plenty of flashpoints of what ended up being a revealing split-screen examination of Donald Trump and Joe Biden. The president, whose abrupt withdrawal from the debate ultimately led to the separate network town halls, nonetheless found himself challenged at nearly every turn. Jeff Bennett has details.
Two town halls as different as the candidates themselves. President Trump pressed by moderator Savannah Guthrie, declining to denounce the QAnon conspiracy theory.
I know nothing about QAnon.
I just told you.
I know very little. You told me, but what you tell me doesn't necessarily make it fact. I hate to say that. I know nothing about it.
The FBI has dubbed QAnon a domestic terrorism threat. On coronavirus, the president refusing to directly answer whether he supports a disputed herd immunity approach.
Do you support herd immunity as a strategy? Essentially just let people get sick.
The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself.
Medical experts say it would result in far more deaths. When pushed on his finances, the president didn't deny owing more than $400 million in loans.
Are you confirming that, yes, you do owe some $400 million?
What I'm saying is that it's a tiny percentage of my net worth.
That sounds like yes.
Who he owes that money to is why this matters so much. If, for example, it was a foreign entity who wants special favors, we need to know that information. And right now, the president still hasn't answered.
And on health care?
Your administration is about to go to the Supreme Court to argue to throw out the rest of Obamacare, which includes the protections for pre-existing conditions.
That's right.
So your administration is in court right now trying to get rid of that protection.
In order to replace it with a much better health care at a much lower price.
President Trump still hasn't introduced a health care plan, despite repeated promises to do so. Democratic nominee Joe Biden taking aim at the president for his handling of the coronavirus crisis.
When a president doesn't wear a mask or makes fun of folks like me when I was wearing a mask for a long time, then, people say, well, it mustn't be that important.
And acknowledging that his support for the 1994 crime bill was a mistake.
Here's where the mistake came. The mistake came in terms of what the states did locally.
The law widely blamed for increasing mass incarceration of people of color. The former VP now vowing to make clear his stance on packing the Supreme Court.
And they'll have a right to know where I stand before they vote.
So you'll come out with a clear position before Election Day?
Yes.
Biden asked what it would say about the country if he loses.
I hope that it doesn't say that we are as racially, ethnically, and religiously at odds with one another as it appears the president wants us to be.
Jeff Bennett, NBC News, the White House.
I'm Garrett Hayden. Tonight, with just 18 days to go, President Trump on a battleground blitz, rallying thousands of supporters in Florida.
This election is a choice between a Trump recovery and a Biden depression. Biden's plan will crush America. My plan will crush the virus, and America will be in a position very soon like it was never in before.
Earlier, at a senior-focused event announcing a partnership with CVS and Walgreens to distribute an eventual coronavirus vaccine to nursing homes at no cost.
Once you have that vaccine, these are very effective. Once you have that vaccine, you can open those doors and say, here I am.
Meanwhile, here in Michigan, Joe Biden also focusing on health care.
When I'm president, I'll take care of your health coverage the same way I would my own family.
And taking aim at the president for his handling of the pandemic.
How many times on television see you make fun of Biden wearing a mask? Because he refuses to practice social distancing. He puts his supporters in such jeopardy.
The NBC News polling average shows Biden with a 9-point national lead. But for Biden supporters in Michigan, which President Trump narrowly won, memories of 2016 are still fresh.
I think everyone is just counting down the days and hoping that there's no surprise like there was last time.
While Trump supporters say a recovering economy is President Trump's ticket to another victory.
You go anywhere and it's 100 to 1, you know, Trump signs over Biden, at least. Yeah. No, I think Michigan, he'll take Michigan.
Tonight, Biden is holding a drive-in rally here in Detroit. Next week, he'll deploy his most potent political weapon, former President Obama, in Philadelphia. Lester?
All right, Garrett, thanks. At the center of this campaign is the coronavirus pandemic. 1 million new cases in just 3 weeks. Some states hitting numbers not seen even at the start of the outbreak. We get more now from Miguel Almaguer.
The signs of strain are most daunting at hospitals. In states like Wisconsin, where the average daily number of deaths have more than tripled, some ICUs are at 90% capacity. At least a dozen states soaring to all-time highs for COVID hospitalizations. Florida with the highest number of deaths in 24 hours.
I was unconscious for about 2.5 months.
Deanna Hare left a Michigan hospital yesterday after a 196-day battle with COVID.
My life and our lives have been changed forever.
With no region spared as we fall deeper into crisis, the growing tidal wave of new infections is climbing by the million almost every month, with spikes in the summer and now another million in just the last 3 weeks. After scenes like these across the country, the mayor of Boston vows to crack down on house parties.
It's a perfect scenario. It's a petri dish for the spread of the virus.
But small gatherings are also fueling the rise. The governor of Rhode Island ordering businesses to close all break rooms. In Georgia, 13 workers inside an election prep center tested positive.
I think that as we enter the fall and the winter, every part of the nation is going to be lit up by infection.
With some towns prepared to reinstate restrictions, Today, cities like Denver requiring masks outdoors and limiting gatherings to 5 people. States like Texas, though, have given the all clear for bars to open at reduced capacity.
Across the nation, more than 36,000 people are hospitalized with COVID. Officials worry that number is poised to balloon, especially as fatigue grows over taking precautions.
Gail Brusso, a beloved grandmother and school bus driver, took every safety measure she could. But today, her family holds her funeral.
And before she took her last breath, she told us she loved us. I don't want nobody else to go through that.
Brusso is now one of the 219,000 Americans to die of COVID. The heartbreak felt by her family, certain to be shared by so many more. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
The battle over masks is still raging months into this pandemic. Chris Christie, after his own COVID experience, is now encouraging President Trump to do more to encourage mask wearing. But the president is still spreading wrong information. Here's Kristen Dahlgren.
Today, Chris Christie with a mea culpa about masks.
And it was a mistake.
The former New Jersey governor who spent 7 days in the ICU admitting he should have worn a face covering at that Rose Garden ceremony and while prepping the president for the debate.
And I think we need to be honest with the American people and just say directly to them that we don't know everything we need to know about this disease at this point, George. But what we do know is that masks can certainly help.
That just hours after the president said his opinion of masks hasn't changed after catching COVID.
I'm good with masks. I'm okay with masks.
Then cited a false conclusion about a recent CDC study.
85% of the people that wear masks catch it. So
they didn't say that. I know that study.
The CDC tweeting the interpretation that more mask wearers are getting infected is incorrect, adding that its study actually found people with and without COVID claimed to use masks in public, but that people with COVID were more likely to have eaten in a restaurant, an activity where masks can't be worn. Both the president and Christie received antibody treatments under compassionate use exemptions. Away seriously ill.
Может, не в этом дело-то, да? Кто, как нас, нет, eating in restaurants helps. Time wasted, знаешь, как это раздражает. Где ты живешь, у меня свои версии, скорее всего. Это все не Зачем это указано? Посмотрите, будет платно. Ну ладно, просто так посмотри, что будет.
Patients can receive investigational drugs if no alternative therapies are available. Regeneron, which provided the antibody cocktail to the president, says it has granted fewer than 10 exemptions. For John Lober, there is only one answer when it comes to wearing masks.
I didn't wear a mask, and I didn't social distance, and I paid the price for it.
He has lingering side effects and a new mission.
Just because I acted like an idiot doesn't mean that you have to.
To help save others. Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News, New York.
A terror investigation is underway after a knife attack left a teacher dead near Paris. Matt Bradley is in Paris for us tonight.
Tonight, French police launching an anti-terror investigation after a horrific attack on a school teacher. An unnamed suspect decapitating him with a knife north of Paris, according to French police, who later shot and killed the suspect after he refused to surrender. Police say the 47-year-old victim was likely targeted after he showed caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad to his class during a discussion about freedom of speech. French media said parents complained about the teacher last week. Mauricia Luciela told us he was in the teacher's class and was shocked by the murder.
He said that he told the teacher that he's going to cause problems if he shows images like this to the students because a lot of the students are Muslim.
Paris has been on edge for years, ever since nearly 200 people were killed in a rash of ISIS terror attacks in 2015.
Well, police actually set up a wide perimeter around the attacker's body. That's because they were worried tonight that the suspect may have been wearing an explosive belt. Lester?
All right, Matt Bradley tonight. Thank you. With the world desperate for a COVID vaccine, Russia is accused of spreading lies about a leading candidate. Here's Richard Engel with that story.
It's one of the world's most promising COVID vaccines, developed by Britain's University of Oxford. And tonight, an unconfirmed report in British media suggests Russia is trying to discredit it. Russian television and state-controlled websites are calling Oxford's drug a monkey vaccine, suggesting it's unsafe for humans. Cartoons, featured heavily on pro-Kremlin websites and mysteriously sourced, imply the vaccine will even turn people into monkeys. NBC News recently spoke to the top U.S. counterintelligence official who told us Russia and China are trying to discredit and steal vaccine research.
Whoever obtains the vaccine first is going to be the geopolitical leader of the world.
But why monkeys? The Oxford vaccine uses a modified virus commonly found in chimpanzees to deliver genetic material. The scientists at Oxford say trials show their vaccine candidate is harmless to humans. Russia has responded saying it has no need to delegitimize foreign research because Russia is leading the way. Russia is currently marketing its own vaccines, which many virologists say lack sufficient trials. Lester?
All right, Richard Engel tonight. Thanks. An alarming new side of the economic damage from the pandemic, the federal deficit soaring to a record over $3 trillion. The pain is being felt all across the country, including a key battleground where Jolene Kent heard from voters and whether they're better off now than 4 years ago.
The Yuma, Arizona desert feels like the land of the plenty. Arid fields planted and harvested year-round.
A lot of the leafy greens that land on kitchen tables across America come from right here in Arizona. In fact, last year, Yuma County was the third largest producer of vegetables in the entire country.
But around town, presidential politics seem to be sprouting up faster than the crops.
Who are you supporting this election?
President and his administration.
Definitely supporting Joe Biden.
In 2016, President Trump won Arizona by 4%. In Yuma, the margin was even smaller.
Delicious. Oh, thank you. Coming to your store shelves in a couple of weeks here.
John Bolts has fields of honeydew and leafy greens. He's voting for President Trump for the second time, pleased with what his administration has done to decrease water regulation.
4, 5, 6 years ago, federal government was seeking to regulate every drop of water, whether it was in a canal, a pond, a puddle, or a river. We appreciate that the current administration worked hard to come up with a rule that made sense.
Across town in these kale fields, Vic Smith is casting a different vote.
How much are you voting for Biden versus against President Trump?
I'd say probably half and half.
Smith operates farms in 3 states.
Climate change, that's the one that scares me the most about President Trump. To deny that there's climate change and it's being significantly affected by man and our fossil fuel consumption, I think is totally irresponsible. Joe Biden will bring us back into some rational, coherent policies.
Smith and Bolts do agree whoever wins will have to take on an industry devastated by the pandemic. Tons of crops were wasted when restaurants, schools, and sports venues shut down. In June, food spending plummeted $12 billion compared to the year before. They also share common ground when it comes to the labor force along the U.S.-Mexico border.
We want a safe border with legal commerce going back and forth, and that includes the people that are going back and forth.
We have to have a stable, reliable, legal workforce.
Both sides planting seeds for whomever wins come November. Jolene Kent, NBC News, Yuma, Arizona.
In 60 seconds, the man indicted today in the death that shocked Major League Baseball fans. New developments in the tragic overdose death of MLB star Tyler Skaggs. NBC's Morgan Chesky on today's indictment.
His sudden death rocked Major League Baseball, and tonight, a Texas federal grand jury indicting a former LA Angels employee in the death of pitcher Tyler Skaggs. Angels former PR director Eric Kay charged with conspiracy to possess, as well as distributing the fentanyl that killed the 27-year-old.
We've come to learn that tragically, Tyler Skaggs also had a secret. That is, he was an illicit prescription drug user.
The rising star found dead in a Texas hotel room in July of 2019. His autopsy revealing a mix of fentanyl, oxycodone, and alcohol in his system. Prosecutors say Kay and Skaggs texted one another about the drugs just hours before he died. How many? Asked Kay. Just a few, like 5, replied Skaggs.